The galaxy was vast, but fear traveled faster than light. On a distant planet orbiting a dying star, General stood tall on the bridge of his massive flagship. His body was covered in thick, black chitin that shimmered under the dim red glow of warning lights. Antennae twitched atop his head as he prepared for the moment he had waited centuries to witness: the fall of humanity. Turned toward the holographic display floating before him. It showed Earth, a small blue dot surrounded by swirling clouds. To him, it wasn't just another world, it was an insult. For generations, his people, they had watched humans from afar. They saw how they squabbled among themselves, fought over borders, and polluted their own skies. Humans were weak, divided, and afraid. And now, after years of planning, the time had come to end them. "Activate the broadcast," commanded, his voice deep and guttural like grinding metal. The crew to obey. Moments later, the signal went out across space, reaching every corner of Earth. On Earth, screens flickered to life. Phones buzzed. Televisions interrupted programming. Even satellites picked up the transmission. Billions of eyes turned to watch as the towering figure of General appeared, larger than life, his image projected into homes, offices, and government buildings worldwide. "Humans," began, his words translated into perfect, cold English. "You call yourselves intelligent beings. You claim dominion over your tiny rock in the void, but we have watched you. We see your cowardice, your inability to unite, your reliance on machines instead of strength. You are unworthy of survival." His antennae quivered as he leaned closer to the camera. "We are the Empire. We will take what is ours, your resources, your land, your lives. Resistance is futile. Surrender now, and perhaps we may spare some of you as slaves." A collective gasp rippled through humanity. People froze where they stood, staring at the alien general who spoke with such disdain. Governments scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called. Military leaders huddled around maps and monitors, trying to make sense of the impossible threat looming above them. But wasn't done yet. He raised a clawed hand, silencing any murmurs of defiance. "However," he continued, "if you believe you still possess honor, if you think you can prove yourselves worthy, we offer one chance. Send us your greatest warrior. One human alone must face me in single combat. If this champion defeats me, my fleet will leave your system forever, but if I win, your fate is sealed." With that, the transmission ended, silence followed, then panic erupted. In cities around the world, people shouted and cried. Some prayed. Others barricaded themselves indoors, believing the end was near. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and pleas for someone, anyone, to step forward. Who could possibly stand against such a monstrous creature? What hope did humanity have? Inside a secure underground bunker beneath Washington, D.C., the leaders of Earth gathered. Representatives from every nation sat around a long table, their faces pale and drawn. At the head of the room stood General Hayes, commander of Earth's United Defense Forces. Beside him was Doctor, the top scientist overseeing military technology. "We're screwed," muttered a European delegate, breaking the tense silence. "This isn't a war, it's suicide." "Not necessarily," Hayes replied, though his voice lacked conviction. "They said one person. That means we only need one fighter, someone skilled enough to." "To do what?" snapped a Chinese official. "Kill that thing, look at it. It's 10 feet tall with armor stronger than anything we've got." Doctor cleared her throat. "Actually, sir, there might be options." She hesitated, glancing at Hayes. When he nodded, she continued. "There's a soldier, or rather there was a soldier, discharged years ago under questionable circumstances, but his record speaks for itself. He's the best we've ever had." Hayes frowned. "Who are you talking about?" "Captain Elias," said quietly. "They used to call him the Last Stand. During active duty, he completed missions deemed impossible, survived battles no one else walked away from, but something happened, details are classified, and he disappeared. Officially retired. Unofficially, well, let's just say rumors persist." The room fell silent again. Finally, Hayes spoke. "Find him, bring him here. If anyone can pull this off, it's—" It took less than 24 hours to locate Elias. He lived in isolation, far from cities and crowds. A modest cabin nestled deep in the mountains served as his home. Hunters sometimes spotted him wandering the woods, rifle slung over his shoulder, moving with the quiet grace of a predator. No one knew much about him except that he kept to himself and didn't like visitors. When the agents arrived, they found chopping wood outside his cabin. Tall and lean, with sharp features and piercing gray eyes, he looked older than his file suggested. Scars crisscrossed his hands and arms, evidence of battles fought long ago. He didn't seem surprised to see them. "You're wasting your time," said without looking up. His axe thudded rhythmically into the log. "We need your help," one agent said quickly. "Earth needs you." Stopped mid-swing and turned to face them. For a moment he said nothing. Then with a sigh he set the axe down. "Let me guess, aliens." They nodded. "And they want to fight." Another nod. Chuckled bitterly. "Figures, always comes down to punching, doesn't it?" He studied the agents for a moment longer before shaking his head. "Fine, take me to them." Back at the bunker, listened silently as Hayes and explained the situation. Images filled the screens around them. Data streams scrolled endlessly, detailing the aliens' size, strength, and weaponry. Everyone waited anxiously for reaction. Finally, he spoke. "So you're telling me I'm supposed to go toe-to-toe with that?" He pointed at the screen. "Against all those ships, against whatever army he brings along." Hayes shifted uncomfortably. "Technically, yes, but we'll equip you with everything we've got. Weapons, experimental tech, whatever gives you a fighting chance." Smirked. "You really think gadgets are going to save me? Listen, I don't care about odds. I don't care about plans. All I care about is winning. Tell me when and where, and I'll handle the rest." For the first time since the crisis began, a spark of hope ignited in the room. Maybe, just maybe, humanity had a shot after all. As preparations began, news of selection spread. Public opinion was divided. Some hailed him as a hero. Others dismissed him as a reckless choice. Meanwhile, watched from his flagship, sneering at humanity's decision. "A single soldier," he growled to his advisors. "How pathetic. They send one man to represent their entire species. This will be over quickly." Little did he know, Captain Elias wasn't just any man. And when the time came, he would remind the universe exactly why humanity deserved to survive. Elias stood inside a sterile white room deep beneath the Earth's surface. The walls were lined with monitors displaying streams of data, schematics, and simulations. Scientists around him, adjusting equipment and muttering to themselves. Despite the chaos, remained perfectly still, his arms crossed as he observed everything with quiet intensity. Doctor approached him, holding a tablet filled with notes. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Captain," she began, her voice steady but tinged with nervousness, "we've been working non-stop to prepare you for this fight. But I need to be honest, this isn't just about skill. That alien general is unlike anything we've ever encountered." Raised an eyebrow. "I figured that much," he said dryly. "What else do you have for me?" Gestured to one of the screens. A holographic image of General appeared, rotating slowly in midair. The alien's towering frame loomed over them, even in digital form. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, and his claws looked sharp enough to cut through steel. "Based on our analysis," continued, "is at least 12 feet tall and weighs close to 2,000 pounds. His natural armor is incredibly durable. It can withstand high-caliber bullets and energy blasts. He also has enhanced reflexes and strength far beyond human capability." Nodded slowly, absorbing the information without showing any emotion. "So basically, he's a walking tank." "Exactly," replied. "And that's not all. His species uses advanced technology. We believe he'll be armed with plasma weapons capable of incinerating targets instantly. Even if you managed to dodge his attacks, the heat alone could kill you. One of the scientists nearby chimed in. We're equipping you with an experimental design to amplify your physical abilities. It should give you a fighting chance against him. Turned to look at the suit resting on a pedestal in the corner of the room. It was sleek and black, with glowing blue circuits running along its surface. The design was both futuristic and intimidating. He walked over to inspect it more closely, running his fingers along the smooth metal plating. "How reliable is it?" he asked, his tone neutral. The scientist hesitated. It's never been tested in real combat before, but simulations show it can increase your speed, strength, and endurance significantly. Plus, it comes equipped with advanced shielding and weapon systems. Smirked faintly. "Sounds like you're betting my life on a prototype." "We don't have a choice," interjected quickly. "This is the best we can do under the circumstances. Without the suit, you'd stand no chance." Didn't argue. Instead, he stepped back and studied the team surrounding him. Each person carried an air of desperation mixed with determination. They weren't just preparing him for battle, they were clinging to hope. Hope that humanity might survive another day. As the hours passed, underwent rigorous testing to ensure the suit fit properly and functioned as intended. He moved through obstacle courses, practiced firing experimental weapons, and endured simulations designed to mimic combat style. Every movement he made was recorded and analyzed by the scientists, who adjusted the suit's settings accordingly. Despite the pressure, performed flawlessly. His movements were precise and calculated, every action deliberate. The scientists marveled at his ability to adapt so quickly to unfamiliar technology. Some whispered among themselves, wondering if he truly was human or something more. When night fell, the facility grew quieter. Most of the staff retired to their quarters, leaving alone in the training area. He sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the hologram of still hovering in the center of the room. For once, his expression softened, revealing glimpses of doubt behind his steely exterior. Memories surfaced unbidden, flashes of battles long past, faces of comrades lost, moments when survival seemed impossible. Had always prided himself on being fearless, but now, facing an enemy unlike any other, he couldn't shake the feeling that this might be the end. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You okay?" Glanced up to see Doctor standing in the doorway. Her lab coat was draped over her arm, and her hair was slightly disheveled from a long day's work. She looked tired but concerned. "I'm fine," replied automatically. Stepped closer, sitting down beside him. "You don't have to pretend with me. I know what you're going through. This isn't just another mission, it's the fate of the entire planet resting on your shoulders." Sighed, leaning back on his hands. "Doesn't matter how heavy the weight is. You either carry it or let it crush you. I've spent my whole life carrying weights most people wouldn't touch. This is no different." "But it is different," insisted. "This time failure means extinction. No second chances, no fallback plans, just nothing." For a moment neither of them spoke. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncertain, finally broke it. "I didn't ask for this," he admitted softly. "Hell, I didn't even want to come out of retirement, but here I am. And whether I like it or not, I'm the only one who can do this. So I'll do it. Not because I think I'll win, but because someone has to remind those bastards what humans are made of." Smiled faintly. "That's exactly why they chose you." The next morning, preparations resumed at full speed. Engineers finalized adjustments to ensuring it would respond seamlessly to commands. Weapons specialists loaded ammunition into compact and plasma rifles, each piece meticulously crafted for maximum efficiency. Meanwhile, strategists pored over maps of the designated battlefield, an asteroid floating in neutral space where the duel would take place. Throughout it all, remained focused. He tested every weapon, memorized every detail of the terrain, and rehearsed countless scenarios in his mind. Yet despite his outward confidence, questions lingered in the back of his mind. Could he really defeat such a powerful opponent, or was he simply delaying the inevitable? As the launch date drew near, public anticipation reached fever pitch. News outlets broadcast endless updates speculating about its chances of success. Social media buzzed with debates, memes, and prayers. Some hailed him as Earth's savior, others dismissed him as a fool sent to die. Regardless of opinion, everyone agreed on one thing: the outcome of this battle would determine humanity's future. On the eve of departure, stood alone in the hangar bay, gazing at the small spacecraft that would carry him to the asteroid. Its sleek design reflected the harsh fluorescent lights overhead, casting shadows across the floor. Behind him, General Hayes approached, his boots echoing loudly against the metal. "You ready for this?" Hayes asked, stopping a few feet away. Didn't turn around. "As ready as I'll ever be." Hayes nodded, though couldn't see it. "Listen, Elias, I know we're asking a lot from you, more than anyone should have to bear, but remember, this isn't just about you. It's about all of us. About proving to those aliens that humanity isn't weak, that we won't go down without a fight." Chuckled humorlessly. "Funny, that's exactly what I told myself." Hayes placed a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever happens out there, you've already done more than anyone could ask. Just come back alive, all right." Finally turned to face him, his expression unreadable. "Can't promise that, but I'll make sure they remember us." With that, he climbed aboard the spacecraft and sealed the hatch behind him. As engines roared to life and the vessel ascended toward the stars, billions of eyes watched from Earth, holding their breath. In less than 24 hours, Captain Elias would face General in single combat, a battle that would decide the fate of humanity. Meanwhile, aboard the alien flagship, watched footage of preparations with growing amusement. To him, the humans' efforts seemed laughable. How could such a fragile creature possibly pose a threat? "You see, Commander," sneered to his second-in-command. "This is why humans will always fail. They cling to false hope, believing their petty struggles mean something. But soon they'll learn the truth. Tomorrow I will crush their champion, and with him their spirit." His laughter echoed through the ship, cold and merciless. Little did he know, wasn't fighting for glory or pride. He was fighting for something far greater, the indomitable will of humanity itself. The asteroid loomed ahead, a jagged gray rock floating silently in the void of space. Its surface was with craters and sharp ridges, remnants of ancient collisions. To most, it would have seemed lifeless, a desolate wasteland unfit for anything but dust and shadows. But today, it served as the stage for humanity's greatest trial. Captain Elias sat strapped into his spacecraft, staring out the window at the barren expanse growing larger by the second. The hum of engines filled the cabin, steady and rhythmic, masking the tension building inside him. His mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. He had trained for this moment, prepared as best he could, but nothing could truly replicate facing an alien general who towered over him like a god. Behind him, monitors displayed live feeds from Earth. Billions of people were watching, their hopes pinned on one man, felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on him, heavier than the he wore. Yet, despite the pressure, he remained calm. Fear wouldn't help him now. Only focus mattered. As the spacecraft descended onto the asteroid's surface, checked his equipment one last time. The black clung tightly to his body, its glowing circuits pulsing faintly with energy. Weapons hung securely at his sides, plasma rifles and knives forged from experimental alloys. Every tool had been crafted to give him an edge, though new tools alone wouldn't win this fight. Victory would depend on skill, strategy, and sheer willpower. The landing was smooth. The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing the harsh environment outside. Stepped onto the rocky terrain, boots crunching against loose gravel. The airlock sealed behind him, leaving him isolated in the vast emptiness of space. Above him, stars twinkled coldly, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. Moments later, the alien fleet arrived. A massive flagship descended from the sky, casting a shadow over the battlefield. It dwarfed tiny spacecraft, its sleek design radiating power and menace. Smaller ships flanked it, buzzing like insects around a queen. As they hovered in formation, a platform extended from the flagship's hull, lowering Gernal to the asteroid's surface. When appeared, couldn't help but feel a flicker of awe. The alien Gernal stood over 12 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton shimmering under artificial lights. Claws gleamed at the ends of his arms, and his eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. Behind him, drones hovered silently, recording every movement for the galaxy to see. Took a step forward, his heavy footsteps shaking the ground beneath his feet. "So," he rumbled, his voice amplified and translated into perfect English, "this is the mighty champion of humanity, a single pathetic clad in scraps of metal." Didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied the alien carefully, noting every detail, the way he moved, the subtle shifts in his posture, the positioning of his claws. Information was ammunition, and intended to gather as much as possible before the battle began. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm and measured. "You talk big for someone hiding behind an army." Chuckled, a deep guttural sound that sent shivers through the asteroid. "I don't need armies to crush you, human. My strength alone is enough. But tell me, what makes you think you stand a chance? Your kind relies on machines and tricks. Where is your honor, your courage?" Tilted his head slightly, almost amused. "Courage isn't about size or weapons. It's about standing up when everyone else expects you to fall. And right now, I'm all that stands between you and Earth." For a brief moment seemed taken aback. Then his expression hardened, anger flashing in his glowing eyes. "Very well. Let us see if your words match your actions. Prepare yourself, human. This will be quick." With that, the alien Gernal raised a clawed hand, signaling the start of the duel. Tightened his grip on his, ready for whatever came next. The battle began with a deafening roar. Lunged forward faster than expected, his claws slicing through the air where he had stood moments earlier. Rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. Rocks shattered under the force of strike, sending shards flying in all directions. Fired his, aiming for the alien's chest. The projectile struck true, slamming into his armored plating with a burst of sparks. The impact barely slowed the Gernal down. He roared in fury, swinging again with terrifying speed. Ducking and weaving, used the asteroid's uneven terrain to his advantage. He darted between boulders and craters, staying just out of reach of his claws. Each near miss sent adrenaline coursing through his veins, sharpening his senses. He knew he couldn't win by brute force alone. Against such a powerful opponent, he needed to think smarter, not harder. Grew frustrated as evaded his attacks. "Stop running," he bellowed. "Face me like a warrior." Smirked, reloading his weapon. "Warriors adapt, you're just big and angry." Enraged, unleashed a barrage of plasma blasts from hidden emitters on his forearms. Bright blue bolts streaked toward, exploding on impact and scorching the ground around him. Heat washed over him, searing his suit's shielding and forcing him to retreat further. Despite the chaos, remained focused. He analyzed his movements, searching for patterns or weaknesses. The alien Gernal relied heavily on his superior strength and reflexes, but his attacks followed predictable arcs. If timed his dodges correctly, he might find an opening. That opening came sooner than expected. After another failed swipe, paused to recalibrate his plasma weapons. In that split second, saw his chance. He sprinted forward, closing the distance between them. Before could react, launched himself into the air, using this enhanced agility to leap onto the alien's back. Thrashed violently, trying to dislodge the human clinging to him. Held on tight, gripping the alien's chitinous shell with one hand while drawing a knife with the other. With precise strikes, he jammed the blade into exposed joints where his armor was weakest. Sparks flew as the blade pierced synthetic components embedded in the alien's exoskeleton. Roaring in pain, reached behind him, grabbing by the leg and hurling him away. Hit the ground hard, skidding across the rocky surface. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to stand, ignoring the damage to his suit. "You're persistent, I'll give you that," snarled, flexing his injured arm. "But persistence won't save you." Didn't reply. Instead, he activated a feature on his prototype EMP pulse designed to disable nearby electronics. The device emitted a low hum as it charged, drawing his attention. "What trickery is this?" the alien demanded, advancing cautiously. "No tricks," said, raising his hand. "Just science." The EMP pulsed outward in a blinding flash of light. For a moment, everything went silent. Froze mid-step, his systems temporarily disabled. Drones hovering above wobbled erratically before crashing to the ground. Seized the opportunity, rushing forward with renewed determination. Without his advanced weaponry, was forced to rely on raw strength. He swung wildly, attempting to crush with sheer force. But without precision, his attacks became clumsy and predictable. Dodged each blow, countering with swift strikes of his own. Plasma rifles gave way to brutal hand-to-hand combat as the two warriors clashed in a flurry of motion. The tide of the battle shifted visibly. His movements grew sluggish, his injuries taking their toll. Pressed his advantage, driving the alien general back with relentless ferocity. Each punch, each kick, carried the weight of billions of lives depending on him. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every human who had ever doubted their place in the universe. Finally delivered a devastating blow to his chest, shattering the remaining components of his armor. The alien staggered backward, collapsing to one knee. His glowing eyes dimmed as he struggled to rise. "It's over," declared, standing over the defeated general. "Tell your fleet to leave, or stay and face the consequences." Stared up at him, disbelief etched across his monstrous features. For the first time, there was no mockery in his gaze, only shock and resignation. Slowly, he nodded. "As agreed, we will withdraw." Above them, the alien fleet began to retreat, breaking formation and disappearing into the depths of space. Cameras captured the moment, broadcasting it to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had triumphed against impossible odds. Watched silently as the last ship vanished from view. Exhaustion weighed heavily on him, but he refused to let it show. He had done what he set out to do, not for glory, but to remind the universe of humanity's resilience. As he turned to leave, the asteroid seemed less desolate than before. Stars still twinkled coldly overhead, but somewhere among them, hope burned brighter than ever. The asteroid was eerily quiet now. The alien fleet had vanished into the void, leaving only and behind. The general knelt on the ground, his massive frame trembling as he struggled to recover from the EMP pulse and the damage inflicted by its relentless assault. His glowing eyes flickered weakly, their once menacing glare reduced to a dim, defeated glow. Stood over him, breathing heavily but refusing to let his guard down. His was battered, scorched in places where plasma blasts had come too close. Blood trickled from cuts on his face, seeping through cracks in the suit's visor. Yet, despite the pain and exhaustion, there was no hesitation in his stance. He held his steady, aimed directly at the alien's head. "Say it again," demanded, his voice low but firm. "Tell me you're leaving." Raised his clawed hand slightly as if to shield himself from the weapon pointed at him. For a moment he seemed unsure whether to fight back or surrender. Then, with a deep sigh that echoed like grinding metal, he lowered his arm. "You win, human," he growled. "My fleet will leave your system. This battle is yours." Didn't relax. "Good. Now tell your drones to stop recording. I don't want any excuses later." Hesitated, then gave a sharp command in his native tongue. The hovering drones powered down, their cameras going dark. Satisfied, took a step back, keeping his weapon trained on the alien. He knew better than to trust completely. Even defeated, the general could still pose a threat. For several moments neither of them moved. The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. Finally broke it. "I underestimated you," he admitted, his tone bitter. "I thought humans were cowards, weak, but you are different." Smirked faintly, though there was no humor in it. "Humans aren't perfect. We argue, we make mistakes, and yeah, sometimes we run when we should stand. But when it matters, we fight. That's who we are." Stared at him, studying him carefully. "And what about you? Why did you agree to this? Was it for glory, pride?" "No," replied simply. "It wasn't for me. It was for everyone else, for people who couldn't fight back, for Earth." The alien general shook his head slowly, almost in disbelief. "Your kind is strange. You cling to hope even when all seems lost. Perhaps there is more to humanity than I believed." Before could respond, alarms blared suddenly from his. A warning flashed across the HUD inside his visor. Suit integrity compromised. Critical failure imminent. The EMP pulse and repeated impacts during the battle had taken their toll. Cracks spiderwebbed across the armor's surface, and smoke began to rise from damaged circuits. Cursed under his breath, he needed to get off the asteroid before the suit failed completely. Turning away from, he started toward his spacecraft. Behind him, the alien called out. "Wait," his voice was louder now, tinged with urgency. "You cannot leave yet." Stopped but didn't turn around. "What do you want?" "I have something to say," continued. "Something my kind does not often admit. You have earned my respect, human. Today you prove that strength isn't just about power, it's about heart. My empire will honor our agreement, but know this. If we meet again, it will not end so peacefully." Glanced over his shoulder, meeting the alien's gaze. "If we meet again, bring your best, because I'll still be here." With that, he climbed aboard his spacecraft and sealed the hatch behind him. The engines roared to life, shaking the asteroid beneath him. As the vessel ascended into the sky, watched grow smaller through the cockpit window. The alien stood alone amidst the wreckage of their duel, watching silently until the ship disappeared into the stars. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted the moment news of victory reached the planet. Cities lit up with fireworks, streets overflowed with cheering crowds, and social media exploded with messages of gratitude and admiration. Humanity had faced extinction and survived, all because one man refused to give up. In the underground bunker where preparations had taken place, the team gathered around monitors displaying live footage of his return. Doctor wiped tears from her eyes, overwhelmed by relief and pride. General Hayes clapped his hands together, grinning widely. Even the scientists who had worked tirelessly to equip allowed themselves to smile. "He did it," whispered. "He actually did it." Hayes nodded. "Told you he was the right choice. That man's got guts." As spacecraft re-entered Earth's atmosphere, reporters swarmed the landing site, eager to catch a glimpse of the hero who had saved humanity. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust forward, and questions rang out in every language imaginable. But when the hatch opened and stepped out, he ignored them all. His appearance shocked many. He was cracked and scorched, barely holding together. His face was pale, streaked with dirt and dried blood. Yet despite his condition, he carried himself with quiet dignity. Ignoring the chaos around him, he walked straight past the crowd and toward a waiting military vehicle. "Captain," someone shouted, "what's next for you? Are you planning to join the military again? Will you continue fighting for Earth?" Paused briefly, turning to look at the reporter. "I'm not a symbol or a hero," he said flatly. "I did what I had to do, that's all." Without another word, he climbed into the vehicle and drove away, leaving the reporters scrambling for answers. Back at the bunker, and Hayes watched the scene unfold. "You think he'll stick around?" Hayes asked. Shook her head. "No, he's not the type to stay in the spotlight. He did his job and now he'll disappear again." Sure enough, within hours of returning, vanished. No one saw him leave, and no amount of searching could locate him. Some speculated he had gone back to his cabin in the mountains. Others believed he had simply melted into the shadows, content to remain an enigma. Wherever he went, one thing was certain: Elias had fulfilled his purpose. Meanwhile, scientists analyzed data recovered during the battle. Pieces of shattered armor, fragments of his weapon systems, and recordings of his movements provided invaluable insights into alien technology. Humanity now possessed knowledge that could revolutionize its own advancements, knowledge gained not through conquest, but through courage. Governments debated how to use these discoveries responsibly. Should they focus on defense, ensuring Earth would never be vulnerable again? Or should they push forward into space, exploring new frontiers and seeking allies among the stars? The debate raged on, but one sentiment remained universal: humanity owed its survival too. In the weeks that followed, monuments were erected in his honor. Streets were renamed, books were written, and songs were composed celebrating his bravery. Children played games pretending to be the last stand, imagining themselves facing impossible odds and emerging victorious. Yet, despite the adoration, remained absent. If he heard the stories or saw the tributes, he gave no sign. One evening, high in the mountains, a lone figure sat outside a modest cabin. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine trees and fresh snow. A fire crackled softly in a pit nearby, casting flickering light across the man's face. It was Elias, staring into the flames as if searching for answers. He didn't need recognition. He didn't crave fame or fortune. What he wanted, what he had always wanted, was to remind humanity of its potential, to show them that even in the darkest moments, they could rise above fear and despair. And he had done exactly that. As the fire burned lower, leaned back against a log, closing his eyes. Somewhere far away, stars twinkled in the night sky, indifferent to the struggles of those below, but knew better. He had seen firsthand what humans were capable of when they chose to stand together, when they chose to fight. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them, not because they were fearless, but because they understood that fear was part of being alive. And sometimes, the bravest act of all was choosing to move forward anyway. Months passed since Elias disappeared into the mountains. The world moved on, but his shadow lingered everywhere. News outlets still aired documentaries about the last stand. Scientists continued to study alien technology recovered from the battlefield, making breakthroughs that pushed humanity closer to the stars. Governments debated how to prepare for future threats, their discussions fueled by both fear and hope. Yet despite all the progress, questions remained unanswered. Who was Elias really? Where had he come from? And why had he chosen to vanish after saving billions of lives? Some believed he was a soldier who had simply grown tired of war. Others whispered theories that he wasn't entirely human, or that he had been trained by some secret organization beyond public knowledge. No one knew for sure, and perhaps no one ever would. In the small mountain cabin where lived, life was quiet. He spent his days chopping wood, hunting game, and tending to a modest garden. At night, he sat by the fire, staring into the flames as if searching for something lost long ago. To anyone watching, he seemed content, perhaps even at peace. But those who looked closer might notice the faint tension in his posture, the way his eyes darted toward the horizon whenever an unfamiliar sound broke the silence. Wasn't running from anything. If anything, he was waiting for what he couldn't say. Maybe another threat would emerge someday, or maybe nothing would happen and he could live out the rest of his days in solitude. Either way, he was ready. One evening, as the sun dipped below the peaks, casting long shadows across the valley, heard footsteps crunching through the snow outside. He didn't move immediately, letting his visitor approach. Whoever it was, they weren't trying to hide. That either meant they were confident or reckless. The door creaked open, revealing Doctor. She stood there, bundled in a thick coat, her breath visible in the cold air. Her face was pale, exhaustion etched into every line. She hadn't expected him to answer so quickly. She said softly, stepping inside, "I wasn't sure you'd still be here." He nodded, gesturing for her to sit by the fire. "You're lucky I didn't shoot first and ask questions later." Managed a weak smile. "I figured you'd recognize me before pulling the trigger." They sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire filling the gap between them. Finally spoke. "I came because, well, things are changing, faster than we thought." Raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "After the battle, we analyzed everything, the alien tech, the recordings, everything. We found patterns, signals. Something big is happening out there. They aren't alone. There are others, other empires, other species. Some of them know about Earth now, about what happened." Leaned back, his expression unreadable. So, sighed, frustration creeping into her voice. "We don't know if they'll see us as a threat or an opportunity." Kept his word, but not everyone will. Humanity isn't safe yet, not by a long shot. Stared into the fire, his mind racing. He had suspected as much. Aliens rarely acted alone. Their empires spanned galaxies, driven by ambition and conquest. One victory didn't mean the end of the fight, it just meant the beginning of a new chapter. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. Met his gaze. "Help us prepare, teach us how to survive. You've seen what's out there, you've faced it. We need someone like you, not just to fight but to guide us, to remind us what we're capable of." For a moment didn't respond. He looked away, his eyes scanning the darkened corners of the cabin. Then slowly he shook his head. "I'm not a teacher. I'm not a leader. I did my part already." "But you're still needed," insisted, her voice rising. "You can't just walk away and pretend everything's fine. Humanity needs you." "No," replied firmly. "Humanity doesn't need me, it needs itself. Look around, people are stronger than they think. They always have been. All they needed was a reminder. Now they've got one." Opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. She could see the resolve in his eyes. Arguing wouldn't change his mind. Instead, she changed tactics. "Then tell me this," she said quietly. "Why did you do it? Why risk everything for people you barely know?" Smiled faintly, though there was sadness behind it. "Because someone had to. Because when the odds feel impossible, someone has to stand up and say, 'Not today.' That's all it takes sometimes. One person willing to take the first step." Nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "And what happens if no one steps up next time?" Shrugged. "Then humanity won't deserve to survive. But I don't think that'll happen. Humans are stubborn, they adapt, they overcome. Even when they fail, they keep trying. That's what makes them special." The two sat in silence after that, the weight of the conversation hanging heavy in the air. Eventually, stood, brushing snow from her coat. "I should go," she said. "Thank you for seeing me." Nodded. "Take care of yourself, and good luck." As she walked away, disappearing into the snowy darkness, returned to his seat by the fire. He watched the flames dance, their warmth a stark contrast to the chill outside. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of doubt. Was he doing the right thing by staying hidden? Could he truly trust humanity to handle whatever came next? But deep down, he knew the answer. Humanity didn't need a savior. It needed belief in itself, in its potential, in its ability to rise above fear and despair. Had given them that. Now it was their turn to carry the torch. Days turned into weeks and winter gave way to spring. The snow melted, revealing green shoots pushing through the earth. Birds returned to the mountains, their songs echoing through the trees. Life went on, resilient and unyielding. One morning woke early, drawn outside by a strange sensation. Standing on the porch, he gazed upward at the sky. Something was different. A faint hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Moments later, a streak of light shot across the horizon, leaving a trail of glowing particles in its wake. Squinted, shielding his eyes against the brightness. Whatever it wasn't natural. It moved too fast, too deliberately. As it disappeared over the mountains, he felt a chill run down his spine. Somewhere far away in the vast expanse of space, civilizations watched. Whispers of Earth spread among the stars, carried by signals and rumors. Some saw humanity as prey, others saw potential allies, but all agreed on one thing: the blue planet was worth watching. Back in the cabin, picked up his axe and resumed chopping wood. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready. Humanity had proven itself once. It could do so again. And if it could, well, would be there to remind them.